The Queensland government is under pressure to fix the state's maternity services after a 24-year-old was left in her own blood-stained sheets after a miscarriage with her baby beside her in a biohazard bag. Health Minister Shannon Fentiman admits the state has no care guidelines for women who miscarry and has vowed to rectify the maternity crisis. Joining me live is Nikkole Southwell, the patient who experienced this, horrific trauma. Thanks very much for your time, Nikkole. It's unspeakable just reading what you went through. Talk us through what initially happened, because you feared the worst. You went to hospital but were initially turned away.
Yeah, so upon my 12-week reassurance scan, I went to the hospital with the advice of my fertility specialist and my doctor. When I presented to the ED, they advised me, due to having no active bleeding at the time, there was absolutely nothing they could do for me. So they sent me home. And unfortunately, a few days later, I started to actively bleed and expressed some of the fetus and actually miscarried.
And that would have been a horrific moment. I'm sure all sorts of questions go through your mind about initially being turned away. But on top of that, you got an ambulance in that state to the hospital. During that ambulance, during that miscarriage, your fetus was actually put in a biohazard bag. And as you sat waiting in hospital to see someone, that bag was just left with you to sort of figure out what to do with?
Yeah, so when the ambulance arrived to take me to the hospital, they put the fetus in a biohazard bag. From there, I held on to that bag throughout the ambulance trip into the emergency ambulance bay part. From there, they got me to step off the bed, and unfortunately, the bed was filled with blood. They put my fetus in with the biohazard bag on top of my handbag and provided that to me with some sheets to wrap around my waist, and left me in the waiting room to sit in my blood until 5-6 o'clock. Throughout that time, I requested some type of help as I was sitting in my own blood and it was going through the sheets. So they provided me a purple gown and an adult's diaper to sit in the waiting room with my fetus.
So you're sitting there for hours in that state, and I guess all sorts of things going through your mind, the trauma, the sadness, the grief, and your fetus in this biohazard bag. And nobody, I'm sure you spoke to multiple people, thought, that sounds awful, let's sort that out. Each different person you spoke to seemed to think this was a acceptable way for you to be treated?
They told me that it was a Monday night, and in the emergency department on a Monday night, they are understaffed and they have no beds available. They had no compassion for me. The people in the waiting room were asking if I was okay, what happened. I was trying to explain to people that I miscarried, and it was shocking. It was absolutely humiliating. It was terrible.
And at any time since, I guess we've heard a lot of stories around, moments in hospitals where we can't believe someone was made to wait for a certain period of time or whatever it might have been, but that so many different people thought that, having gone through what you just went through, that this was a, acceptable place for you to sit there and wait. And in any follow-up at the hospital, at any point, did someone say, "Oh, sorry, gosh, wow, that's terrible. That shouldn't have happened"? Has that ever been said to you?
Not exactly. Follow-up with the MARTA, they have all had a lot of compassion for me and have all pretty well advised that they don't believe what happened was appropriate. But throughout the experience, throughout those days, no one really cared in the Ipswich Hospital.
Have they reached out since to make sure you are okay and to get any other help you might need?
Yep. So I have actually heard from the hospital's consumer liaison officer as well as the health minister's office yesterday, actually, and this morning just before this interview, which I need to give a call back to discuss further. But they have offered me, I believe, some psychological assistance and mental health assistance.
Well, I hope you can get everything you need. In that regard, it can be, well, it is an incredibly traumatic time already, and it's obviously a time now when you never know where this sort of grief can hit you as well. There is going to be an inquiry that the Minister has intervened. What do you make of that? What are you hoping actually gets sorted out here? Because as you say, I mean, that line you said, it's a Monday night. It's sort of like, look, get in the line. There's obviously an issue around how we're dealing with maternity in Queensland, but maybe the whole hospital system, if that's what you're being told, it's a Monday night.
Yeah, to be honest, I want change for the women regarding, women's health and pregnancy and miscarriage, issues when presenting to the hospital. Like finding out that there's no actual set care guidelines for miscarriage has really upset me, as I feel if there was guidelines put in place, I might not have went through what I went through to the full extent. I just hope for a change so that no one else ever has to go through what I have to go through, because I live with it every day of my life. Every time I close my eyes, when I sleep, I dream about it. I think about it when I wake up. Every time an ambulance goes past me, I instantly go into a shock mode of, imagining the night that the day I hemorrhaged and everything. It's just something that I don't want anyone else to ever experience, as well as, with the under-resources of being scanned, they don't have someone to scan you unless it's an emergency. I feel that my situation was an emergency, but, just the fact that they don't have someone there to scan someone that's pregnant or having a miscarriage at that time really upsets me, with the under-resourced equipment and everything. Yeah.
Well, you've helped spark this review, so your bravery has already had that impact. We hope you get all the help you need as well after they have contacted you today. Nikkole, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you or anyone you know is feeling distressed at all, you can call Lifeline 13 11 14, also lifeline.org.au.